bit frightening, isn't it, Dan? Do you, oh yeah, let's not let Dan have a microphone.
Yes. Should we keep it? Yeah. Okay, this one works. Yes, well, I did know you were there, but I thought, so I'll just not tell Robert.
You just cut them dead socially.
Yeah, exactly.
We were making Chris jealous about our shenanigans in Australia. We went to a very posh sailing club with our CGI man, Mike Seymour. And it's just sort of stuff that's right up Chris's street. So we were,
Rubbing it in.
rubbing it in.
Well, what I haven't told them is I'm actually a member.
That's true.
And it was me who got them in. It was a vital phone call. Anyway, enough of that. Are you questions?
Yes. So well, first of all, welcome everybody. We've already had a fantastic start to the talk. I'm going to start off with a couple of questions just to get the ball rolling, and then we'll open it out to the floor. You'll probably have to. Blimey, there's a lot of you back there. You'll probably have to shout quite loudly to make yourself heard. I'll try and run over with the mic, but I might not be able to battle my way through to everybody. So, well, first of all, did everybody love Red Dwarf 10?
Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys. I absolutely loved the fact that it genuinely felt like we were getting back towards series 1 to 6, and it had that authentic original feel. But I have to say, the last episode, while fantastic, worried me, because the first episode was called The End, and the last episode of Series 10 was called The Beginning, and that seemed to be a kind of almost wrapping up package for the whole thing. Now, I'm sure everyone wants to know, is there going to be another series?
I don't know why I've been given the task of. But Robert told me that Doug is actually, I believe, contracted to do a further series. So it's just a bit like Series 10. It's logistically finding time to make that series, and we worked it out. It's probably not going to be really until maybe 2015 when it hits the air, but time will travel rather quickly, and sorry. Well,
Sir, she has a time fabricating machine. We must get hold of it. She can make time.
Well, if you want to make sort of an 18-month year, I think you're right. I'd love to make. I'm available 12 months a year. It's the other members of the cast, Dan.
I think that joke was the wrong way round. Shouldn't it have him being the sir? They've got the time, and you go, two things wrong with that.
Two things wrong with that. Otherwise, flawless plan, sir.
I could be in the middle going, what is it?
You get the laugh.
Somehow I didn't.
Sir, it's simple. Listen to this. La, 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 and then you go,
I was with you until.
You said simple.
And I guess, well, if we are going to have another series, are we going to experience a series of Red Dwarf where Rimmer isn't a total and utter smeghead? Because he seems to have found his validation, and we've got rid of a lot of that angst that's been building up from his neurotic time. Could it be that Red Dwarf can exist without a smegheady Rimmer?
I think he was just as big a smeghead as ever. I don't say. Yeah, there are certain changes, obviously, that were discovered in that last episode, but no, I think Rimmer being a smegger, it provides a lot of petrol for the comedy. So I don't think he'll ever be completely void of smegheadedness.
That's very, very good to hear.
I'm afraid.
Okay. Well, I think, given the sheer number of people in here, we better open it up to the audience. So can you put your hands up if you have a question for the boys from the Dwarf?
Yes.
Hello there. Thank you very much for helping form part of my life, which is excellent. I appreciate that. Thank you. With the success of Bottom live on stage, has there been any talk, any thoughts about going live on stage to take it as a tour?
There has been, for many years, been talk of it. There's never been quite, it's never got quite past that stage. And in fact, I mean, it was discussed back in the 90s, with, and who's the man who does the big concert tours? Well, somebody was talking to Doug about it. McIntyre.
Phil
Phil McIntyre. So, I mean, it's definitely not impossible.
Yeah.
It's not likely in the next couple of years, just because of other contractual arrangements to do with Red Dwarf, nothing to do with us.
Sure.
And then it would be our availability, and then it would be our willingness to undergo the extraordinary experience of being covered in rubber in front of loads of people. Though some people would pay good money to be covered in rubber in front of them, but I'm not one of them.
Well, I mean, we kind of do more or less sort of
it's
touring
like
stage shows anyway. I mean,
it's like a stage
in
show.
Australia, it was quite phenomenal. We did, like me, Robert, and Craig.
Yeah.
Rightly so. we did 2 hours.
Yeah.
It was like a stage show. I mean, people would be paying good money for that. I mean, with Chris, we would have done 2 hours and 5 minutes. No, but for instance, Suggsy from Madness is on tour with his solo show now, and it's it's going to smash the whole place.
No, but it's certainly something we'd like to do. It's something that we have talked about, and and Doug gets very excited about it. And we talk about, like there's a huge star bug that comes right over the audience, and then we go, that would actually cost £750,000 for 1 minute of stage time. Is that a wise investment? So there are sort of limitations and issues, but it's certainly something that's on the. I think it's on the big cards.
I'm sure it'd be fantastic to turn up to a venue knowing that you're going to do a Red Dwarf in front of a very eyes.
Yeah, no, it would be good
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
So there is definitely talk of it, but no definite plans yet.
Once we'd found Craig.
Yeah, that would be. In fact, every performance would
Looking for Lister.
Would be looking for
The
Lister.
show would be called Looking
Sorry
for
guys,
Lister.
I'm a bit late. What's going on?
So we would slog the 2 hours out, and then there'd be a sort of a video link to Craig from the Corrie set.
Plus, I personally would love to see the live smeg-ups, so that would be great. Okay,
There'll be
next
plenty of those.
question.
Hi, probably not the most original question, but what was your favourite episode to make up to date?
That's actually a better question though, because what's your favourite episode? Really hard. What's your favourite episode to make? Narrows it down.
It really does narrow it
Does it
down,
narrow
yeah.
it right down to about 80 episodes.
Well, favourite episode to make, I suppose we have to go back to the one on Real Beach, where you guys had the Harley D
Better
and
Than Life.
Better Than Life, yeah. Right, got to.
I wasn't there, so I'll shut up. Does anyone have a vacuum cleaner? I'll just give the carpet.
No, it was nothing to do with Bobby not being there. Although we got through things much more quickly, didn't we? Anyway, I got to drive an E-Type that was stuck on the beach for a long time. Got to be ace for a bit. Obviously, things went really wrong at the end when the taxman came along and I was a Morris Minor. But look, I mean, all episodes are all for fun to make, but some are more fun than others. Some of the costumes I still recount. Finding pins being stuck in me when you're at Sunbury pumping station. That
was lovely.
Such a
The
good
pumping
laugh.
station.
But no, and for me, the ace ones probably were the best to make.
Oh dear. Dwayne Dibley, Riviera Kid. I mean, well, I mean, I can't really say that there was an episode that we really didn't like making.
What about Backwards?
Backwards? No, Backwards was a joy.
What about the end for you, though?
For me and Robert, I would probably guess it wasn't
Sorry.
that it was the worst, but it was just we kind of got lots of soap in our eyes, didn't we?
That was my first
That was
day's filming ever on Red Dwarf.
It was the Chris and Craig show, Marooned.
Marooned, yeah, brilliant episode.
And that was your first episode, wasn't it? Bob?
Very first one.
And I was whipping him to death's door, mush mush line and all of that, and Rob sort of had reins on his head in first day in the mask, with soap in his eyes, and
it was basically the very first time we'd used the mask on while we were filming, and it just because of the way they'd done the makeup, they were still practicing, and what had happened is my eyes were glued open, which is not pleasant anyway. If you can imagine sort of standing there going, I can't blink. and then a big wind machine starts up.
Well, it was a Volkswagen.
It was a Volkswagen
A
engine.
Volkswagen engine with a fan on the end.
Yeah.
Ella.
Yeah,
It's like a World War II.
Lots of men with soap flakes. Oh, it looks just like snow. Yeah, it does.
I think in that Volkswagen thing with the fan on, I actually nearly drowned.
Oh yeah, I remember watching
they were
that.
chucking water at us, and they sort of, when you're trying to do the dialogue and people are throwing water at you, you sort of intake the water. I just saw Robert Doug sort of going, yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, keep going, lads, that's funny. You know.
Was that marooned as well?
No,
it
was
wasn't.
something else.
Yeah,
It
I
was,
can't remember what it was. Early on
down
there.
in Shepperton.
You and Craig calling outside.
Yeah, fixing something. Yeah.
There's one you spit out like
Dimension jump.
water at one point.
Yeah, that was nearly drowned. There. Things to do. But in series 10, I guess, you know, we remember that slightly better than we do.
Possibly,
previous
just
series.
slightly more.
And that it's interesting that what was our favourite one to make in that?
Very hard to know. I mean, certainly Lemons stays with me as being. There were some magic moments when we were recording Lemons that I remembered.
Yeah,
But they were all.
It was also just walking onto the set. Just walking onto the set because you read in the script and they arrive at sort of Indian sort of Romany village, and you're looking around the studio thinking, how are they going to do that in here? And then of course Michael Ralph, our new designer, just genius. It just looked huge on screen, didn't it? And it was this tiny little corner of the studio.
But it smelled nice. It was the first Red Dwarf set ever that didn't stink of burnt plastic and old paint and Mr. Socks. It actually smelled lovely. It was all full of spices.
All the spices and
beautiful.
all the sort of.
Craig ate half the props. Actually.
It was great. Michael Ralph, what a legend.
Okay. Anyone else? Next question?
Hi, this is a question for Chris, really. The Ace Rimmer wig, I hear a rumour it went missing after the first time you used it.
Are you wearing it?
Again.
That's it.
Actually, yes. But I was wondering...
Looks very suspicious from where I understand. Milano. Yes, Milano. How dare you steal a Red Dwarf prop? No, sorry, keep going.
I was just wondering whether or not you did actually steal it.
Did you lose your wig as well?
Careful, Danny.
No,
careful.
I mean, Ace Rimmer.
Yeah.
Did it really go missing?
It did. No, the original series 4, I think, Ace Rimmer wig, the one that looked like proper hair.
But my cat wig got nicked as well.
Yeah, no, I don't know. There's something going on in the sort of storerooms in Shepperton that year. G stage, whatever it was. I don't know. It just went. Because I just remember when we did Ace again, it was Andrea Pennell, who's makeup designer, and I said you must have that great chance to wear that great wig again. She goes, no, you have to get another wig done. So we went to another wig, and of course we did all the things that you do when you get fitted for a wig, but it just looked like a thatch parked on my head. So I don't know where it's gone. But it was brilliant, that original wig, because I walked down the corridor in the wig, and people thought I was just someone else. Because it had that bounce. Yeah, the hair fell over your face, and it was. I could be a straight, long-haired, straight-haired sort of person with hair like that, and instead of the sort of rather unkindly called bog brush hair that I used to have, but obviously now don't sport so much because I tend to opt for the
short back and sides.
Short back and sides, the Royal Marines look. It's a bit
rather than the old Helen Chaperio.
Well, I look like a complete nutter tit.
One of
remember the
my
lines now.
favourite lines of all time in Red Dwarf was that. Just him standing in front of that mirror. I laugh every time I see it. And I look like a complete and total tit. You see? I can't remember my lines.
So you don't have the Ace Rimmer costume at home for, just looking in the mirror and going, what a guy, occasionally. That's kind of disappointing. Okay, next question.
There's a mini Leicester over there.
Fabulous outfit.
Were you worried when you found out that Series 9 and Back to Earth Part 3 might be your last episode.
Wow.
We were.
Well, yeah, it was.
We were.
Good
Very
question.
anxious, yeah.
I don't know about worry. Maybe a little bit sort of.
A little bit sad, I think.
Sad.
Yeah.
We thought, maybe this was it, didn't we? Really?
We didn't know then.
Well, I'd been sort of banging my groin against the table for so long that I was rather glad that it was but yes, I do understand that question. Any actor who is in any show, when you come to the end of it, in our business, I'm afraid you're always rather sad because you're worried about where the next work is going to come from. So, yes, a certain amount of sadness did permeate, that's for sure. So yes, is your answer your question?
And also, you not only where's the next gig going to come from, but because all of us have got to play not only our main characters, but also other characters that we've played within the show, and then you think, yeah, you might get another gig, but will it be as fulfilling as doing Dwayne or Cat? That's a big, so you get that sort of happy, and then it's like, oh shit.
Don't listen to that. He said a rude word. Don't listen to that.
The word was shoot.
Shoot. Perfectly, you can say that.
Shoot.
Not the other word. But I mean, the other thing I think, which we all, I definitely experienced the Red Dwarf is, oh, you're going to do another Red Dwarf. We start to hear in the thing, and it's like, oh, it is a real mixed emotion for me. I go, oh, brilliant, because I really enjoy working on the show, and then I go, oh, I'm nearly 90 years old and I've got to be covered in rubber. It's kind of, there is a sort of, me personally, there's definitely a kind of, there's a balance to
rubber thing.
There's a balance to the joy.
I'm in the tight PVC.
We all suffer.
Cuban heels. It's all great, but the studio floors, reinforced concrete. There's just
not a lot of bounce in them.
You walk on those floors for about 2 hours, and it just drains your energy out, doesn't it? And Cuban heels. Looking like John Wayne.
There was a time when I'd spend many long lonely hours in the makeup room on my own. No other members of the cast there. That time gap is now reduced. Partly because the mask is slightly quicker to put on, and partly because my fellow cast members spend slightly longer in makeup than they used to. So it's all marginal. But
Some of your fellow cast
some of my obviously Chris just walks in. Where's my H? Bang, done.
It's still the 10 minutes. It's still the 10 minutes.
He does have it adjusted, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, it gets adjusted by professionals.
Well, I'm more anal now. Part of the character's rubbing off on me.
Before Chris leaves the makeup room, you'll always see that.
A little final adjustment.
Well, apart from the breathing at the end. That's absolutely right. But yeah, no, I mean, Red Dwarf is, as the boys I think have almost kind of said there, it's a big undertaking, and sometimes you are. I remember in Starbug we used to be in the cockpit endlessly
for years
with lights, these hot lights sort of coming from every angle in fairly, hefty outfits and costumes, and it got a little tad uncomfortable. It's pretty when Ron Duggan sort of say, right, let's just do this version, which we hadn't seen, So, but yeah, look, let's put things in perspective. It's what it is, and we've enjoyed doing it over the decades, and hopefully we'll be doing more.
I just want Chris to do a quick, because in memory of lovely Peter Ragg, who used to do all our special effects and used to blow us up in Starbucks. That was my. But when Peter would describe to us where the explosions were going to be to warn us, so we weren't like looking at it. But there would always be a couple that he forgot to tell us about. But because he was such a lovely fellow, he worked on Thunderbirds, he worked on with Daleks, Doctor Who, all sorts of stuff, and he did a lot of our special effects. He was an extraordinary man.
Did he do no wrong?
No, he was our hero.
I saw him with a photograph putting down Scott Tracy.
Oh, that was so cool, wasn't it?
That?
Yeah.
And he had this
big mop of hair. We knew him as a very bald man, but there's a lovely picture of him kneeling next to Lady Penelope's car on a motorway. But of course, he's like 800 feet tall. So it was fantastic, amazing work.
No, he was always funny because him and Craig were a perfect combination, because Craig always loved doing his own stunts, still does. But yeah, Peter would sort of say, so Craig, you're willing to do this? Yeah, right. Well, what we're going to have is you swinging in from the side, and then maybe you could let go of the rope, and then sort of do a sort of somersault over the rest of the cast, and then there'll be about 4 explosions there. Not they won't be very big. It'll just be, and then when you get there, you could sort of then jump over Chris, who's coming in here, and then I don't know, someone will probably say cut then.
And it would all happen back to front.
Exactly. You know, the explosion, Craig would just react to everything, and some of the best stunts were those. When Holly got the, was it the blue or was it the blue one? Then Craig did a fantastic job there.
Well, you remember we actually did get the blown up.
Yeah, that was. We got proper injuries, didn't we? Yeah.
Well, because they have these big
air cannons.
Air cannons, like they just fill it with rubbish, big woofers.
And they got the biggest one they could get.
And so it was, you know, they have all the switches 1, 2, 3, 4. So that, you know, so when 1 goes off, you look that way.
Yeah.
And 2 goes off, you look that way. You know.
So they're not in your face, basically.
So this day.
We got our numbers wrong.
Two of the numbers were he'd wired them back to front. So look, boom! His mask, it was great. They used to put this little cork, you know, stuff in it, and all of this cork stuff was all embedded in the mask. It was just you look like a cookie.
Yeah.
And I got one. My eye started swelling up. It was, and the silence. You got to imagine. There's 300 people watching, and you could hear a pin drop in the studio.
I thought we were dead. But it was easy because sometimes, as science fiction actors, you do the really rubbish sort of rocking, Enterprise sort of. That kind of on these 1 or 2 occasions, we didn't have to do any "I'm being blown across the room" acting. We just relaxed. They did it for us.
Yeah, it was good. You're right.
Yeah, no, it was lovely, man.
I think we've got time for one more question.
A very unoriginal question indeed, but when you were doing the first series, did you have any inkling at all that you might be talking about it 25 years later? And if not, at what point did it dawn on you that this was going to become something very, very popular that was going to carry on for, well, probably for the rest of your lives?
Well, funny you should say that, because the original series, we were all booked, and then we got to the rehearsal room, and it was like, open the first page, and then someone walked in and said, "Can't film it, lads. Electricians are on strike." So we were like, "My God, you know, we just got this great gig," and
that was in early '87, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was stood down. So we didn't actually think we were ever going to get to make it, and then we were remounted, and then.
Master of the pause, Dan. I was learning something. You're learning something all the time in this business.
Is Craig coming with that bus yet? No, but and then you know, we started rehearsing it all over again. By then, we'd lost our original Kochanski, who was originally going to be an actress called Alexander Pig, and that was when Claire Grogan came in, and then it was kind of like the second.
But I think in the first place, when we, you know, so because the audience, of course, being an audience show, the audience were still watching this, thinking this is interesting, but we don't really know enough about it to sort of really latch onto it quickly. So when Craig and I were in that first scene, coming around the corner to do the vending machine repair, you know, all that sort of stuff, and the explosion happened. It was, to me, I was thinking, what is going on here? You know, what is, you know, somewhat. And then during that whole first episode, the whole first series, I was thinking, this will probably just disappear, this series, and it will just either completely disappear or it will be amazing, and we'll get a chance to do another one. The thing is, we got the chance to do another one. It was by series 2/3 when you could feel the audience were right with you and wanted to know more and more, and wanted to, you know, were hungry for it. But I thought it would, there's a possibility that we could be here until, the age, until we fall off our mortal coils, as you hint in your question. Yes. Well, no, it has been the backbone of our professional lives, there's no question about
definitely.
that. But yeah, it's so yes, it was on the cusp in that first series whether it would. But the thing is now, if we made a series now and it doesn't get instant ratings, we wouldn't be given another chance. Within the series, you've seen series happen on TV now. If they don't get instant ratings, they're put on
They're gone.
4 o'clock on Sunday morning, and no one ever sees them. So thank the Lord, it was back in the 80s.
And we used to. I mean, you knew we started laughing about the ongoing Red Dwarf series by when Doug and Rob started taking the mickey out and making us all old and overweight. We were taking the mickey out of doing Red Dwarf in our later years. I don't know, back in the late 80s.
Early 90s.
Early 90s. We were already laughing at ourselves about it.
We would rehearse and we do it like Crichton would come and go, sir, so we'll still be doing this. And the horrible thing is when we were doing Series 10, there were a couple of mornings when I was going, sir, oh.
but even in Series 8, I remember in the makeup room, and I think Danny, myself and Craig were there. Robert was probably in a separate chamber being and Craig was a bit weary, sort of looking in the mirror, and Danny was. I'd done me 10 minutes, just waiting to go. Danny had been done and was all getting into character and stuff nearly, and he was saying, Danny was saying, I think we've aged well. I think as a cast, generally, we've aged well. I think we can go on and do this for decades. And he said, I think I'm doing okay. I've aged okay. I think Norman Lovett's, but he's been 50 when he was a fetus. Yeah. I think Chrissy's not doing bad, and I think Craig a bit puffy, but he's okay. And Craig just looks at her and says, Danny, let's face it, with Dad's army in space, and
I think in this last series, Craig, the classic, sort of walking into Shepperton first day, and Craig comes up with a real serious face on. He goes, "Dan, you're fucking grey."
And for the younger members of the audience, that was of course fudging. Fudging.
No, the Four Kings.
Yes, there we go.
They always say there was 3, but there was actually 4. So when the next nativity play comes along, I want you to pick your teachers up on that and ask them why they're lying. Danny John-Jules says there was 4 kings in the nativity, not 3. Yes, so that's the kind of thing you've got to put up with Craig, is he will always let you know that you're aging.
Craig says to me, he says, Chris, yeah, you're doing okay, man. You're losing your hair, but you're okay. Charm. The Scouse charm.
I don't even want to repeat it. No, nothing.
Go on!
Cutting. I think the only one I can remember him saying on Series 10 was, I'd said something, I said something, because he got an iPad. And he said,
yeah,
and because I was showing him how to use it, I was so excited that Craig finally had sort of made the jump from essentially a nothing, essentially nothing, to an iPad. And he was really into it, and he had a DJ mixing system, and I was showing him how to log in and do all that stuff. He went, "Oh, you're such a nerd. You're still middle class, but you're a nerd."
In Australia, remember, he said to us, he says, "My hair's actually getting thicker." He did say that. He think I'm like, he did say. So look at us two. He said, "He is actually getting thicker."
Oh, well, fantastic. It sounds like then we might well be in for several, hopefully more series of Dad's Army in Space. I'm personally looking forward to series 32 most, myself. I think that'll be fantastic. At least, Robert, you don't have to worry with the mask and everything. All that's a bit incidental for you. So,
Just slower and slower. Mechanoid. So it's eventually on wheels.
Segway. Get a segway.
A Segway. Oh, that would be cool.
Well, thank you ever so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed that. I really want to give a massive thanks to our guest today for coming along and answering our questions. So can we please give a massive round of applause to Chris Barrie?